Hi everybody, welcome to Papercraft with Jenny, and today I'm going to show you how to make a 3-tier slider card using Les Shops Suites from the annual catalogue 2022-23 from Stampin Up. And I have to straight away credit the person that I stole all the measurements from, and that's Elaine Harding. And her business is called Stamp with Elaine. So do feel free to go over and look her up and see how she's made it as well. What I've done is I've taken all Elaine's measurements for the imperial measure, so that it's all in inches. Elaine does have a metric on her website as well, so if you want to hop over there and have a check out her metric measurements, then do feel free to do that. But as with most of the cards that I make, particularly fancy folds, I try my very best to simplify them as much as possible. And make them as easy as possible so that anybody can have a go at making them. And this is a card that I've wanted to have a go at for a really long time, and the Les Shops Suite is perfect for it. Cute little boutique shops on patterned paper, which you can cut out very, very easily. And although the shops are quite square, if you're not a fancy a fussy cutter, then you can get dies to match the suite as well. So you've got the option of either fussy cutting, or you can use dies to cut the shops out. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to show you an alternative as well with the Zoo Crew that I've also done. I'm just going to turn the camera around now and show you the finished card, and then we'll get started. Okay. Just get my grid paper in the centre of the card, of the camera there, so you'll be able to see what I'm making. So, okay, so this is the card that I'm going to make. It folds completely flat, so you can stick it in an envelope, and it will it will fit in a standard C6 size envelope. So there's no problem there at all. But when you open it up, it pops up and has its own cardboard stand that is attached to the card. So the card will freestand without you needing to have anything extra. And then the slider mechanism comes out of the top here. And as you can see, you've got 3 tiers with different shops along the different tiers, and then the card stands up like so. So it's a really great card, and like I say, I've been fascinated by it for a while and was desperate to have a go and try and make one. So here's my take on a 3-tier slider card. So I'm going to put this one out of the way, and the measurements are all written down for you, but I will go over them as we go along as well. So you're going to need your trimmer and scoreboard to start with, and your base layer of card. So for the bottom of the 3 tiers, measures 11 5/8 of an inch by 4.5 inches. So I'll just stick that measurement there to my grid paper as we go along, and then hopefully you'll be able to keep up as we go along. And then I'm going to score this piece with the long side at the top. I'm going to score it 3 7/8 of an inch first of all. So 3 7/8 of an inch, just score there. And also 7 3/4 of an inch. So I am going to need to have my long arm out, and going to 7 3/4 of an inch. And scoring there as well, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some slits into the card to create the slider mechanism. So I'm just going to pull that side arm back in again. So on the 3rd section that you've just created, that's where the slits are going to go. So first of all, I'm going to line up the end of the card with the 1 inch mark on my trimmer, And then I'm going to bring my cutting blade down so that it starts at the 1/2 inch line here on the slide rule measure. So from 1/2 inch, and I'm going to cut all the way from 1/2 inch down to 3 inches. So all the way down to 3 inches. And lift that up and you'll see we've just got a slit in the middle of the card there. And there is a bigger portion at the bottom than there is at the top. That's all very deliberate, okay? Then you're going to take that score line that you created, so this first one on the right hand side, and you're going to put that at the 1 inch line. And on the scoreboard, this, because unfortunately you cover up the 1 inch line as you slide the card to the top to lock it in place, you've also got the 1 inch line following down underneath as well. So just make sure that you line it up with the 1 inch line, and you're going to do exactly the same. So you're going to cut from 1/2 inch down to 3 inches. And just take that out. So you've now got your 2 slits, and the middle tier is going to follow exactly the same kind of format. So let's get that one out of the way. So this is your bottom tier. So we'll just stick the measurements back on there. And we're going to do the similar kind of thing with this middle tier. So your middle tier is 3 1/8 inch wide by 10 1/4 inches long. Okay, and we're going to start by scoring again, exactly the same as we've just done. So going to score at 3 3/8 inch. So 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 3/8 inch, and at 6 7/8. So again, I'm going to need my long arm out, and 6 7/8, which is just down the end here. And then put that long arm away again, because again, we're going to then cut the slits in that create the sliding mechanism. So I'm going to go with the cutting blade again. And similarly to what we just did before, we're going to go to the 1 inch line on the end here. And this time I'm going to put my cutting blade to 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch down this side rule. And I'm going to go from 1/4 inch to 2 1/2 inches. So almost at the bottom, but not quite. And exactly the same again, I'm going to take the first score line, line it up with the 1 inch mark, find the 1 inch coming out the bottom there so that it's the 1 inch line, so I know I'm in the right place. And again, I'm going to go from 1/4 inch, score from 1/4 inch down to 2 1/2 inches. There we go, and take that out. And so you can see again, you've got 2 slits in, that creates your sliding mechanism for this middle piece. Okay, so there we go. So we get those out of the way. Okay, so we then need to start assembling the sliding mechanism. So we've got 3 layers, obviously. You've got your bottom layer, your middle layer, and then your top layer is just a 3 by 3 inch piece of card. Okay. Now, alongside these pieces of card, you're also going to need 2 strips of scrap paper. So I've just literally used a couple of bits of the designer series patterned papers that I couldn't make that into anything at all. So I've just taken these couple of edge bits left over from my designer series patterned papers, and I'm going to thread those. And they're 1/2 inch wide, by the way. And you don't need, I mean, and I'll just measure how long mine are, but you don't need anything nearly as long as this. These are 6 inches, but you don't actually need 6 inches worth. You need a lot less than that, actually. So I'm going to slide them in underneath. Oops. It's just a bit fiddly, but it's okay. And I'm going to set them at the bottom of my channels that I've just created. So I'm going to stick that measurement up there. At the very bottom there, okay? And then what you're going to do, and if I explain this, it'll make it, I think, a lot easier to be able to actually understand. Let's put all three of those up there. Is that this is going to slide up and down your channel, and your piece of card, the next layer, is going to be attached to it, and that's how it will slide with your sliding mechanism, okay? So we put both of these in through, weaving it through and pulling it right to the very bottom of your channel, okay? And then what you need to do is to turn them over so that you can secure them in place, but only kind of very loosely you want to secure them. So we're not taping anything at this point or gluing anything whatsoever. We're literally just going to fold them over and fold them over so that they are not a tight fit against the sliding mechanism. You do not want a tight fit. You want a relatively loose fit. So I've left maybe a millimetre from, or a 1/16 of an inch maybe, just down the sliding mechanism before folding it over, and do the same on the opposite side so that the paper is loosely in there, because you want it to be able to move. If you don't allow that kind of loose fit, it won't slide. And then you're going to trim it. So you're going to trim off the excess so that your flaps at the back, which are not going to be stuck down or anything, don't actually meet. You don't want them crossing over and overlapping or anything. And then you can get rid of the rest of that bit. So turn that one back over. So that's what it looks like when you've finished on this side. So we're going to do the same again on the top tier. So making sure it's at the bottom of your sliding mechanism, you're going to fold it over, but so that there is a bit of looseness against the slit. You don't want it to be tight against the slit, okay? And again, just trim that off so that you don't want them to meet, so they can slide up and down easily, okay? Okay. Right then, so get the scissors out of the way. This is where we're going to start to stick the sliding mechanism together. So this piece, the 3x3 inch piece, is the top tier. That's going to go slide against this one. And then when we finish this one's going to slide. This is the middle tier. That's going to slide up and down on the bottom tier. Okay, so we'll just get the bottom tier out of the way for the time being and just concentrate on the middle tier and the top 3x3 inch piece. Okay, so the best thing to use is tear and tape, or double-sided tape for this. So you want a little bit over that piece of scrap paper, and that's so that your layer will attach to it and will slide up and down. And then in order to close this kind of, which is going to become a bit of an envelope really, you want a little piece on the far corner here as well. And because it's tear and tape, I can literally just tear it off with my fingers. Okay, so I'm going to peel off the backing, but I'm not going to stick anything down yet. I'm then going to find the middle of this piece of card. So this is in between those two score lines that I've already created. And I'm going to line the top of the 3x3 inch piece up with the top and central to that middle section between the two score lines. So the score lines are here and here. And I just want my piece of card to be lined up central to that. And then I'm going to start with the right-hand side. I'm going to fold it over at the score line and stick it down. And for good measure, I'm going to crease it using the bone folder. And then I'm going to take the other side and folding it at the crease line again, score line, fold it over and crease it again. And then what you'll find is that that central piece slides. Easy peasy. Okay, so tuck it back in for now. Now you will notice that it doesn't quite meet at this edge, which is exactly deliberate. That's what you want, because that means that it will fit inside the bottom tier better. So that's exactly what you want. But also you should note that this is the back. So the join is on the back of the card. So let's just put that one up to the corner for the time being. And we'll go back to the bottom tier. And we're going to do exactly the same again, just exactly what we've done. So you take a piece of tear and tape and stick it over that sliding mechanism, over the scrap paper that you've put in, and a long piece down the edge here to create your closure of the sliding mechanism of the card. Okay, so going to do exactly the same again. Going to take the backing off of the tape. I think truthfully, if you were doing this using wet glue, because as most of you know, my go-to glue at the moment is multi-purpose liquid glue. I think if you were doing it with that, you would struggle because you'd have bits of glue squidging out all over the place and you wouldn't get a nice clean slide, and that's essentially what you're looking for. So with the gap, the back of the first two layers facing upwards, you're going to go again for the top, lining it up with the top of that card, and you're going to go between the two score lines, so central to the score lines, but flush with the top. And again on that score and crease line, fold it over and stick it down and crease it with the bone folder. And the same again, fold it over, stick it down, and this time it will be nice and flush. And then when you turn it over and grab your middle piece, if you can find the middle piece, we're going to find an easy way to find the middle piece in a moment, then your card will slide, and there's your three layers. So it slides pretty easily in and out. Simple. Okay, so that's the sliding and the technical element of it, if you like. The next bit is decoration. So we're going to start with this bottom layer, and because I'm using the Lace Shops suite, I've got some patterned papers to use to create this. So I'm going to start with a matte layer, and my matte layer is going to go all the way across the bottom there with just a tiny white border around the outside. And my matte layer is 3 3/4 inches by 4 3/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to, this time I am going to use my wet glue, and I'm just going to stick that down. So that this goes flat down, flush onto the card front. And there's just a little bit of a border, a white border around the edge. So that's flat onto the bottom tier of the card. And then my next layer, I've literally just cut to size, and you could actually cut out picture if you want to go on here, but that just goes inside that matte layer. So I just measured it against the matte layer, to be honest. I haven't measured it using a kind of ruler or anything. So this, because we're on to decoration basically now. So. And I've used one of the background papers, kind of silhouette shops, outline of the shops there. And then I'm going to do all of the matte layers first, and then I'm going to decorate at the end. You can do it in whichever order you want to, but I'm going to do it in this order, so that I kind of save all the decoration, all the fun bit to the end, if you like. So this next matte layer is going on the middle layer, and that is 3 1/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches. And this one needs to sit inside a little bit. So it does need to tuck inside that top sliding mechanism, okay? And that's another reason why I'm using wet glue, because I'm going to have to slide it down inside the sliding mechanism of the card to make it not catch on the card as I slide it out, as I pull out the mechanism. So I'm just going to stick that inside. And again, I want a little border around the edge of that sliding mechanism. I'm not going to stick any patterned paper on that second layer, and I've got a plain mat for the top layer as well. So the final plain mat, oh, and there's the measurement for the strips, for the scrap strips as well. But the measurement for the plain last mat is 2 3/4 inches by 2 1/4 inches. And again, you want it to fit inside the sliding mechanism, just a little bit inside, so that it doesn't catch on the sliding mechanism as you pull it out of the card, or as the recipient pulls it out of the card. So again, much easier to just use a bit of wet glue at this point. Line it up. When you're happy, stick that down. Okay. Now at this point, what I like to do is punch a hole in the top, ready for the ribbon, because I think it's better if you've got something to grab hold of to pull the sliding mechanism up. Otherwise, it's quite tricky for people to kind of be fishing around inside the card to find the sliding mechanism. So at this point, I always grab my hole punch. I can find it here. There's my hole punch. Now you've got quite a lot of layers of card on the top here, because I'm using thick white whisper white or basic white, so it is quite a lot of card to go through. So punching a hole, and that's not very central either, but you can make it even thicker by adding perhaps a punched circle in half, something like that, to reinforce the hole if you want to. And then I'm just using a little bit. This is actually from the Zoo Crew suite, this ribbon, but it's the right colour for this suite. So you don't need very much ribbon. I'm just making a really simple loop and threading it through to just create a puller. There we go. So you've got something to pull the card up with, and then snip the tops off. So there we go. So it's a really simple pulling tab, basically. And I'm going to cover up the fact that that's not very central by some beautiful decoration, I think, next. So I have cut out a few different shops from the patterned papers, and you'll see straight away that I've cut them up as well. So I've got some shops that are complete. So this one is the complete shop from the patterned paper, and I'm going to put that one on the front there. But this one is just the top windows and the roof from that shop. And that one, the roof will disappear because I'm actually going to sit it inside, so that you just get the windows from the top there. And then we've got another half a shop here, which is the bookshop, which also I'm going to cover up the bottom of it, because I need it to sit inside so that it slides easily, and so that the edges of the paper don't catch on the sliding mechanism as you go up and down. And then I've also cut out 2 little pot plants, which I'm going to put on the front here as well. Okay, so the first ones to do are the top 2 tiers, and you can't add dimensionals to these. You have to put them down flush and flat, because otherwise they get in the way of the sliding mechanism. So unfortunately you can't have any dimension on these top layers, you've got to have them flush to the card, I'm afraid. But that's okay because they're quite pretty. So there we go. So I've got my top window boxes there. And then the bookshops going next in the middle. Again, wet glue so that it's easy to slide it underneath the sliding mechanism and get it where you want it to be. Whoop, slid around a bit there. There we go. And then they will still slide in and out, which is exactly what you want. And then on the very bottom tier, you can go to town with your 3D and dimension should you want to. So if you want to, for example, cut out the blind and make the blind stand out, you can do that. I will show you a card that we did at my coffee club, actually. So this is the same shop, as you can see, with the blue background. And we made it so that the blind, we literally cut the blind out of the middle and then reattached it separately, having creased and folded, scored, creased and folded these horizontal lines in the blind so that it makes it move. And then obviously you can add flowers and things if you want to, any embellishments to create and even more dimension should you want to. So you can go as fancy as you like with this, really. But I'm going to just put some 3D dimensionals, and I like to be thrifty, so I'm going to use the edging from the 3D dimensionals and just add a couple of extras so that my shop doesn't sag in the middle. That's going to go in the middle of the shops. But you'll notice that I'm leaving the little pot plant. I'm putting it just slightly to the side of the pot plant because this pot plant that I've cut out from the paper actually fits perfectly over the top. So I'm going to put another dimensional on the back of the pot plant, and then I can actually position it over the top of its shadow there. There we go. And then I've got another little one that I am actually going to use a mini dimensional on that one because I am quite keen that this one kind of sits to one side over the doorway there. So I'm just going to stick my dimensional to the side and the bottom of this little pot plant. And then there we go. So it's just overlapping the shop front there. So, and then all there is remaining to do for the front of the card then is to add some flowers if you want to add some. So I've got these loose daisies, flat-backed daisies, which I've used on the front of this card. And again, you can add some on there. So I'm going to use, let's get my dimensionals out of the way. I'm going to use my take a pick tool for this because these daisies are gorgeous, but they're a real fiddle to pick up because they're so small. But they're brilliant because they're flat, so they go really well on cards. So the way I do these is to add a little dob of glue where I want them to go. So I'm going to add some in the window boxes as well. And then I cover the glue up, if you like, with the daisies. So the take a pick tool has lots of different attachments. Go with the little putty attachment at the end, and you can just pick them up on the end and drop them on the glue. And then they stay exactly where you want them to go, which is the whole point. Oops. So I'm just going to add a few here and there, just mix up the white and the yellow. And you've got big daisies and small daisies in the daisy embellishment pot as well. think you get around 300 altogether, so plenty of daisies to see you through not only this card but probably next spring's projects as well, I imagine. But they are great because they're flat on the back, so they're really easy to stick on, which is what you want. Okay, so that's our daisies attached. And then the only other thing you've got to do is to add the stand, of course, to the back of the card. So we want the card to stand up of its own free will. So I'm going to just make a little card stand to attach on the back. So we'll just set the card to one side. Actually, I'll get it out of the screen for a moment and let it finish drying. And then to make the stand, you need a piece of card that is 3 inches by 8.5 inches. So 3 by 8.5. And again, we're going to just use our scoring tool on the trimmer to score at 3 inches and at 6 inches. And then you will need the long arm out again, because again, you're going to score at 7 inches. And finally at 8 inches. And then you can get rid of the trimmer. And then this time you're going to need to bone folder and crease these score lines. So the top big one that folds it into a 3 by 3 inch square, crease that. So you've got that one is going tent, so a mountain fold. And then the next one is going to be fold in on itself. So you're going in with that fold. So you've got your mountain fold, and then you're going in underneath to almost make a triangle, if you like. And then this next one along comes back on itself again. And then the final one goes back on itself again. So you've got a concertina basically going on with these end ones. And then what you're going to do is attach that last little fold to the inside, and there's your stand. So on that last bit, again, I'm going to, where have I put my tape? There it is. I'm going to attach some tear and tape again. Just much easier than worrying about getting glue squidging out the sides or anything, or the stand sticking to itself and then not being able to stand up. Peel the tear and tape off, and you just fold it over and create your stand, and there you go, you've got your little stand. And then where the seam is, I'm going to put that against the back of the card. So turn the card over, and I'm going to stick it right at the bottom, so flush with the bottom. Again, I'm going to use wet glue for this, so I can just slide it around and get the stand where I want it to go, and it'll be a nice permanent bond, which is what you want. So just turning it over and going flush with the bottom of the card and central in terms of kind of the edges. Press that down nice and firmly, and then your card will stand up of its own free will, and your ribbon will as well if you pull it out. There we go. And there we go. There is the triple tier slider card, triple tier slider card. Hopefully made a bit easy for you through my instruction, I hope. Anyway, Les Shop Suites, as I've said before, is in our annual catalogue at the moment. Do go and have a look. There's dies, stamps, embellishments, lots of other bits and pieces to go with it. So that's two of the Les Shops slider cards. And I'll just show you an alternative one that I made as well. Bit more ribbon at the top here. This is from the Zoo Crew suite, but again, it stands up on its own, and I've just cut out some of the little animals from the zoo crew, and I'm going to put a happy birthday, or I've got lots of nephews and nieces, so it may well be an age there. It might be happy birthday and the name there, and then it might be the age of the child there, possibly, I'm not sure. So it might be one where it kind of reveals itself as they pull up the slider. So yeah, just an alternate there from a different suite from the catalogue. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and do let me know your thoughts, and if you've made one of these cards and you want to share, that would be amazing too. I'd love to see what you've done. Okay, take care till next time. Thank you.